Welcome to Keep You 100 Radio. I'm your host, LISSIE Pointer, type 1 diabetic, certified health coach, personal trainer, and founder of Needles and Spoons Health and Wellness. Inside this podcast, you'll find the real and raw conversations around diabetes management, including the lessons that we don't learn in our endo's office, my best tips and trainings, and conversations from the experts that I trust inside the community so that you can create more predictability in your diabetes management and feel empowered while doing so. Let's dive in. I love using Skincare because honestly it's the only patch company that I've found that actually keeps my devices on while I'm doing things that I love, like weightlifting, running with my dogs, being really active and doing the things that I didn't think I could do before with diabetes. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Keeping It 100 Radio. This is your go-to place for uncensored conversations around your diabetes management. My name is LISSIE Pointer. I am a type 1 diabetic in about a week or so, it'll be 9 years. I'm a certified health coach and personal trainer and the host of this podcast. So if we haven't met before, hey, what's up? Really excited to have you here. Would love to chat with you over on Instagram. So if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us at KI100official_. This is the official Instagram of our signature coaching program, Keeping It 100. So today I am hopping on the podcast to go through some things that have been coming up with a lot of clients of ours. So at the time of recording this, we're in about the third or so week of January, which means that we're all kind of in that mindset of like new year, new me, going on, like working on all of these goals. And for a lot of people who are living with type 1 diabetes, these goals are involving your diabetes management, because what we find is that this is something that is kind of on autopilot for so many years. It's something that we are remaining complacent with for so many years until there comes a point where, if you're listening to this podcast, this is probably you. We get to this point where we are like, okay, we need to figure this out, because remaining complacent and just doing the simple taking your insulin, counting your carbs has not been working. Yes, it might be keeping our A1C in range, but we kind of get to this point where we are tired of being tired. We're tired of focusing so much on the numbers. We're tired and exhausted of hearing all of the alarms. We're tired of sitting in our endocrinologist appointments and just hearing, "You're doing fine, see you in 3 months." So chances are you might be in this phase of your life or your year where January hit and you're just like, I need to figure this out, because what I've been doing, while it might be the societal norm, it's not working for me. And I hear you, because I was there about 4 years ago, and that was after I was also diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And I don't know what it is, but when you're diagnosed with one autoimmune disease, that sucks. But we get through it, right? We pick up, we do our thing. I finished college. When you're diagnosed with a second autoimmune disease, something hits. Something is just like, you go through that period, or at least in my experience, I went through that period where I was super resentful of my body. I hated my body. I didn't want to eat anything. I was pissed. I was really, really upset. But then something hits where you're like, there is a theme here. And while I might not be able to change my might not be able to change my genetic composition, I might not be able to change my environment, I might not be able to prevent these things from happening, but I can prevent the resentment that is coming up from living with this. I can change the outcomes that might be coming up in the future. I can change the way that I can live with this, and I can just kind of change that not only the mentality around it, but I can really optimize the life that I'm living with it. Look, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, the first thing that came into my mind, and this is a very vulnerable moment, but the first thing that came to my mind was if I have to live like this, I just don't want to. And everything just felt like it was going on hold. I felt like my dreams of traveling were on hold. I was a few months away from actually going on a research trip to Curacao when I was diagnosed. I was 3 months away from it. I thought that would have to be like go on hold. I thought that like my chances of having a family were on hold. Like all these different things were coming up. And looking back, like I'm now in a spot where I can recognize that none of those things have to be on hold. But dang, like you get in this spot in your diagnosis, whether it's one diagnosis or two, and you're just like, why do I want to remain complacent with those views of my life? Like I have so many other things that I can do. And that's like a small tangent of what this episode is going to be on, but just to give you some insight to like, maybe you're there right now and you're listening, but that's definitely where I was about 4 years ago, and I can resonate with every single person who comes into Keeping It 100 and is in that moment of their life. So chances are you might be in that spot right now, and you're looking at your life with diabetes, and the first thing that the internet throws at you or your endocrinologist throws at you is start by lowering your A1C. Maybe you've been hearing that for years. Maybe like that's just a personal goal of yours, because how we view it is that if I lower that A1C, I will feel better because my blood sugars will be in range. If I feel better, I can do more, and I just can improve all these other areas of my life. When we look at health and wellness from a holistic point of view, we are looking at like the certification that I went through, they call it the circle of life, which like I always hear the Lion King, like, yeah, the circle of life. But this is really talking about like the different breakdown of different pieces of wellness that actually make a difference in your health outside of just like nutrition and exercise. So we're looking at like spirituality, education, movement. We're looking at like our relationship with food. We're looking at our social life, our relationships, our career, all these different outside areas. So a lot of times what happens that I find when speaking to new clients is that we associate the A1C with the improvement in all of these other areas. We feel like if we feel better in our A1C, we'll have a better social life. We can finally have a relationship with our partner. We feel like we can make developments in our career. And while there might be a correlation between those two things, because I can definitely attest that once my blood sugars felt predictable, I felt better in my blood sugar management, I also started dating my fiance. I was in a better environment. I changed career paths, like all these different things lined up, which we can kind of say like they kind of bounced off of each other. They kind of worked with each other. But the point of me kind of talking about that is that we assume that A1C equals better life. And in reality, I want you to kind of like ditch that thought for at least just a second. If you're somebody who's listening and you have an A1C goal, you have a time and range goal, you have a like whatever it is number wise, I want you to throw that out the window for just a hot second, because in this episode we're going to go through the things that you should actually be focusing on, the biofeedback that comes from managing your blood sugars and taking care of your blood sugars that I want you to focus on instead. Because chances are when we focus on those outcomes, that biofeedback coming from our bodies, we see the A1C in correlation. So instead of having the A1C as the driver, I want you to see the other point of view in having these markers as the driver instead. And you'll just see not only the response in your overall blood sugar management and your A1C, but you're also going to see the sustainability that comes with it. So one thing that we noticed that happens when we do focus on that A1C marker, so let's just say your A1C is in the 8s or the 7s right now, and you're really, really focusing on getting that into the 5s. When we have that numerical marker and that quantitative goal, what usually happens is that we take all the wrong actions to get us there. So we are doing things like jumping to the low carb diets. We are working on moving our bodies every day. We are trying to stick to a solid routine. And while in the societal view, those things may be healthy, more often than not, those are going to be the things that are leading us straight to burnout, because chances are if you're doing them for your A1C, they are not sustainable for your life in the long run. So instead, we're going to go through some of these things, the biofeedback, the responses from your body that I want you to focus on instead. And when you focus on these markers instead, what you'll notice is you're going to start taking actions that focus on these markers. So you're going to start taking actions that actually are tangible, and they're small, and they're sustainable, and they lead you to these, maybe they feel like smaller goals or these smaller outcomes, but in reality, they make the biggest differences. So before we go into that, just a quick defining moment. When we're talking about biofeedback in this episode, we're really talking about the feedback that's coming from your body, the response that you're getting from your body. So just to put it in the, as a lot of people work out, if you're listening to this, maybe you're somebody who does strength training. This is just coming from my personal training background. When we're talking about biofeedback as it relates to exercise, usually we're looking at, okay, what is our soreness look like? How is our sleep looking? What is our hunger cues? What is that telling us? All of those different things. So I want you to focus on, as you are taking steps to approach your diabetes management, how is your body responding? What are the things that you can kind of rate or rank on a scale of 1 to 10? And, what are they telling you? That's going to make more sense in just a minute. So the biofeedback that I would focus on is, number 1, your energy levels. So usually what happens is, as you focus on more predictable blood sugars, your energy levels are going to naturally improve, because what happens when our blood sugars are in range, our body can do its job. We're feeling more energized. We don't feel like we are sleeping because of the high blood sugars all day. So the very first thing that, the marker of progression that I would first mark or keep track of is those energy levels. So if you are taking an action, maybe you're making changes to your diet, or you are making changes to your routine with your movement, or just simply making changes to your bolusing behavior, the first question I want you to ask as you're seeing those results come in is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are my energy levels? And based off of that answer, what is that telling me? So, i.e., if you're somebody who maybe to control your blood sugars more, you want to try a low-carb diet. This will always be my go-to example. I'm sorry if you love low-carb diets. I just know that they didn't work for me, and they don't work for a lot of people that we work with. But if you're somebody who, you want to control your blood sugars, you're trying the low-carb diet, and you find that your energy levels are now at a 2, that's probably your indication that that's not a true marker of success. Even if you're seeing the results in your blood sugars that you want to see, the fact that that area is ranking so low and your energy levels are so low is telling you that that is not a true indicator of success. And that even if it might lower your A1C in the long run, chances are, realistically, it's not going to lower it in the short term, it's not going to lower it in the long run. So very first priority that I would measure as a marker of biofeedback is your energy levels. So number 2, the second thing that I would kind of look at is, based off of what I'm doing, how are my sleep? What does my quality of sleep look like? So when we focus on our blood sugar management and we are taking the right steps to get there, you are going to notice that you are getting such better sleep, because not only what happens is that your blood sugars feel better before you go to bed, you have more accurate basal rates, you have all the right actions before, after dinner in your bolusing behavior, so you're going to bed in range and staying in range, you're going to have less alarms. Less alarms mean less interruptions, and overall, when your blood sugars are in range, your body can actually work on recovering and doing the operations that it was designed to do. So you're going to notice that recovery time is a lot more restful. That time sleeping is going to be a lot better quality, and you're going to be able to actually get into that deep sleep rather than being woken up by an alarm every few hours, because trust me, I have been there, and it is the most miserable thing. So as you focus on your blood sugar management, you're focusing on taking these sustainable steps to lower your A1C, you're going to notice that your sleep quality is so much better. So currently, before even doing anything, I want you to take a second and just kind of like write down as well on a piece of paper of like, where am I currently sitting on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. Where am I currently sitting in my energy levels and my sleep quality? And just kind of keep note of that. Like keep it in your phone, keep it in your back pocket, whatever it is. Number 3, another piece of biofeedback that you'll notice is you're going to have a lot less weight or a lot less fluctuations in your weight. And this is a little controversial. We're going to actually sit down with Amanda Siprich in about a month or so and have a whole conversation of the concept of weight gain and insulin and your blood sugars as a relation with that. But usually what happens is that as we are less controlled in our blood sugars, and I'm using the word control as like very lightly, but as we have more fluctuation in our blood sugars, we usually notice more fluctuations in our weight as well. So you might notice that you're dropping weight easier. You might notice that you're gaining weight easier. So usually what that means is that we're seeing more fluctuations in our blood sugars. Maybe your body's not getting the insulin that it needs. Maybe it's getting too much. Too much than what it needs, more than what it needs. So you'll kind of start noticing those fluctuations. But when we see more predictable blood sugars and we're doing it in the appropriate way, you're going to notice that kind of like not flat now, that's not the word that I want to use, but it's going to be more stable in the sense that your body will kind of come to this neutral point. So with that being said, like just in the conversation about weight, like there's no good weight, there's no bad weight. I hear all the time of like, I started taking insulin and then I gained weight, and chances are that's your body coming back to baseline. But you're going to start noticing as, again, this feedback from your body, this response from your body when your blood sugars are more predictable, that fluctuation is also going to end and you're going to come back to that neutral point of where your body is supposed to be. So just be careful with that one. Don't use it as a progress marker or anything like that. I would just say like it can be an indicator of, it can just be an indicator of where our blood sugars are. So number 4, you know where this is going. I talk about this on almost every episode, but your cycle. Be very aware of how your cycle feels, the length of your cycle, how your hormones are responding. Being very aware of your cycle can also be feedback, a response from your body. So chances are when we are caring for our blood sugars and we are doing the things that are appropriate for our blood sugars, we are fueling our body, we're taking the right amount of insulin for our body, we are moving our body, we are giving our body fuel and nutrients, chances are you're going to see a lot smoother cycle. So you're going to have less PMS, you're going to have less like fatigue and pain, you're going to have cycles that are the right length. I really see correlations in the menstrual cycle, and just when we take care of our blood sugars, we see improvement in our cycle. When we take care of our hormones, we also see improvement in our blood sugars. So your cycle, like they call it another vital sign, it really is. And especially with blood sugar management, as a woman who menstruates, this is definitely something that I would say like pay attention to, because you'll really start noticing the correlations between the two. So just something to be aware of and also to kind of like look at as that response from your body. Number 5, I think we're on number 5, is your appetite. So like I have so many conversations with women who take it as like if they're hungry, that's a bad thing. And don't take this the wrong way. I like feeling hungry. And why? Because that tells me that my body needs more fuel, and that's it. And it's telling me that, it's telling me that like my body needs more of something, and I'm allowed to listen to it. So chances are, like when you focus on your blood sugars, there's a few things that are happening. One, you're feeling better because you're not maybe having so many post-meal blood sugar spikes. You're probably moving your body more, which is naturally increasing your metabolism. you are hydrating more, you're sleeping better, you're fueling your body in a different way. So you may notice that you have more hunger cues, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually think that it's really something to pay attention to and to something to listen to. So just be aware of kind of these different things that may change as an outcome of supporting your blood sugars and taking care of your blood sugars. And these are all things that, like, once our blood sugars feel in line and we can focus on these outcomes instead, we are going to start seeing that progression in our A1C. We're going to feel more energized. We're going to feel more rested. We're going to notice that all of the other attempts in our life that we're making to feel healthier, so like going to the gym, we're going to start actually seeing the results from that because we're able to recover better, we're able to eat more food and grow our muscles more, and we're able to get better sleep, and our body's able to do these things that it was actually made to do. So just kind of a different take on setting goals. I really think that like the A1C should be in correlation with these goals, and that when it is, it's just more sustainable than just shooting for the number. And because usually, again, like we talked about, that's just going to lead more into burnout. So if you're somebody who like you really want to look further at your diabetes management outside of just the number, you know that you want to focus on your diabetes management, but you're not sure where to start, that isn't just focusing on the A1C, I am going to invite you to go into the show notes of this episode and take our newest quiz. This is going to help you identify exactly where to focus in your diabetes management. So when you take this quiz, it is going to take your preferences, it's going to take your experiences, your goals, and it's going to help break things down so that you have one specific area to focus on in your blood sugar management, so that you don't have to worry about trying to do everything at once and focus on all the wrong things and go into your next endo appointment feeling more confused than ever. So that is in the show notes. Take a screenshot of your results and send it to me over on Instagram. Again, you can find us at KI100 official _. That is our official Keeping 100 Instagram, and we cannot wait to hear what you'll be focusing on coming into the new year. I hope that this episode helped change your perspective a bit and kind of change the way that you are going about your goals for the new year, and we will see you next week.